Jamie Jeffrey,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the laws of the State of Colorado and the Town of Loch Buoy,
and the laws of the State of Colorado and the Town of Loch Buoy,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office
of trustee,
upon which I'm about to enter to the best of my ability.
upon which I am about to enter to the best of my ability.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to thank everyone here. We have a full house tonight, but I want to thank this board, staff, and everyone that's supported us over the years. We've come a long way, and I've been proud to be a part of this. I've been proud to have all of these guys up here with me. We've made some hard decisions. We've been through some rough roads. We've taken care of a lot of business here, and I'm proud of what we've done here. And I'm proud, and I hope you guys, I challenge you to keep going. I know you'll keep going. I know Jacob will keep steering the ship, and I just can't wait to come in here and see when you guys really get into it, and I can sit back there and laugh at you. So, but thank you all, and I appreciate it, and I would love to hang out. Notice how I'm lying. Thank you. You guys have a good evening. You have the con. The con is all yours. See you guys.
I was going to say, we need to say that for audience business.
Yeah, you're interrupting the meeting, sir. I need you to
I'm
leave.
saving it for audience business.
Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the roll call for the new board. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Lofgren,
Here.
Trustee Doherty,
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Here.
Trustee Morris, Trustee Ott,
Here.
Trustee Strzok.
Present.
Next item is audience business. Do we have any on the sheet back there tonight? I can recruit former trustee Early. Yep. First on the list is Marty Early.
Microphone? I don't really need it, do I? Anyway, Marty Early, 602 Willow Drive. I just want to say that it's been an interesting past 10 years. We've had lots of ups and downs, and I hope we continue on the path that we've gone on in the last few years. We just had an election, and there were 4 people running for the Board of Trustees, and 3 of them have been seated this evening. There's one gentleman, Mr. Gary Counterman, who got over 500 votes from the town, and I feel that he should be appointed to the board. As you know, we have lots of trouble getting people to fill committees, commissions, Board of Trustee positions, mayor positions all the time, and I feel it'd be a disservice and not fair if we don't appoint him to the board since he did run. No one else threw their hat in the ring this time, so I would appreciate your consideration for that. Thanks.
Next on the list is Mr. Counterman.
Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. Gary Counterman, 421 Zante Way. I just wanted to say that I think there's been a misconception about my service when I was on the board in the city of Thornton. I have also served on smaller boards, even smaller than the town of Loch Buoy, and so I am accustomed to making decisions regarding small budgets and limited resources. I've served on 3 different planning commissions, so I feel like I'm aware of the needs and the wants of the trustees, and I think I can contribute to the town in many ways. I appreciate your continued support and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is the only people signed up for audience business, so we'll move on to our action and discussion items. First one is the financial update. Oh. So, So we'll move on to action item B, resolution 2018-23, Mr. Stamey.
2019 budget. The first resolution is for the expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting the budget. The second resolution, 2018-24, is setting the mill levies for the operating mill levy and our general fund bond issues for our road improvements. Along with that, you do have a copy of our proposed 2019 budget. Includes the organization chart, includes a budget message, which I'd like to briefly hit some of the high points on that. So at the end of 2019, we do have a projected fund balance of about $3.16 million. Of that, we have an unrestricted balance of $1.69 million. The combined assessed value of Weld and Adams County is a little over $38 million. And we have a combined bond mill levy for the County Road 2 and our 2012 street bond of 15.271 mils, and the operating mill levy is set at 3.129 mils. And that's a temporary mill reduction we're taking again in 2019. So for 2019, some of the major changes that we've discussed previously, but they're now incorporated within this budget, is to add a town treasurer position, which would phase out the contract for the financial and accounting services. We would add a position for planning, community development, and management, which would phase out the contract planning services. And then we have also included one position for a new sworn-in police officer. Within the general fund, we do have our CDOT intersection improvement grant of about $463,000, so that we'll start that roundabout project after the first of the year when the weather is appropriate to do that. We have a final design meeting with CDOT here in the next week, and we hope to get final approval of those plans. In the back of your packet tonight, too, you do have a concept of the landscape and that stretch of County Road 2 at the entryway. So there is a positive 2018 year-end budget balance, positive projected 2019 balance. We've met our TABOR reserve. Under the legislative items, we have $40,000 budget for economic development. We're also within that doing a new webpage design. That hosting will be with MuniCode. We've already started on that design, and we hope to have the first cut of that website up and running after the first of the year, and it will be improved on after it's up, but at least we'll have that, won't have the gap between our existing and the new site operating. We do have $15,000 in the budget for events, and it's up to the board to decide how that fund is to be allocated. In Public Works, we've addressed the street repair program, which part of that will be street repairs throughout town, as we've done in the past. We have allocated approximately $125,000 to $150,000 of that street repair budget for the repair of County Road 4, which has been identified as a important road to get improved and extend the life of that road. So that would involving cutting and patching that road from County Road 37 west to the town boundary, and doing a chip seal overlay of that road next year. We will have cleanup day. David's working on a strategy to do that next year. We'll probably have a 2-day cleanup day program, and David will bring the details of that as we formulate the specific dates for that. Again, the police department budget identified, we do have one new police officer. We then have a sworn officer level of 11. We're continuing contracts for police services with the school as a school resource officer. We're also updating and renewing the Town of Keensburg Police Services contract. In the police department budget, we do have the staff full-time code enforcement animal control officer. Under the water and wastewater enterprise funds, Ramey Environmental will continue as the operator of those two systems. We're continuing the water conservation and audit program. We're continuing the Lake Henry design. We started the phase 1 of the Lake Henry design this year, and that project, so far they've done the subsurface borings on the site, so they're in their preliminary design work, but their first test was to determine the subsurface conditions and soil conditions for that site. We do have an extensive capital improvement program for each fund, and those are specified, broken down by water and wastewater. The key item in the water system CIP is continuing and finalize the design for the elevated water storage tank. Along with that, assuming Planning Area 4 in Silver Peak starts development, we have a budget item for the Silver Peaks Planning Area 4 water main oversizing. And then we also have an item for land acquisition for that water storage tank and potential water treatment plant in Silver Peaks. We're still working with Silver Peaks to finalize the layout for that water tank and water site in Silver Peaks. So the total water CIP is $734,000. In the wastewater CIP, we're doing the ongoing cleaning and videoing, which we've been doing a third of the town every year. It's been a good program for us. We're continuing with the sewer line repairs, which are identified as part of that videoing process. We will finalize and complete the construction of the wastewater treatment plant expansion project. The carryover that is reflected in this year's budget is about $2.87 million. It's a total of a little over a $4 million project. There are other improvements ongoing in the wastewater plant. We're going to replace the UV system, which is obsolete, and we're going to work with Ramey to replace that system, and that will save us probably an estimated $200,000 if we contracted that out otherwise. Again, continuing upgrades to the plant and its operation. So the total wastewater CIP is $3.667 million for 2019. We have a complete budget which is ready for adoption.
Questions or comments? Trustee Ott? Trustee Doherty?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Strack?
Nothing.
Trustee Jeffrey?
No, thank you.
No comments? I don't have any comments. Everything looked good to me and consistent with what we previously discussed, so I will. Oh, yes, and this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at this time at 6:50 p.m. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the budget, you may step forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and now I can entertain any motions.
Resolution 2018-23, a resolution summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting a budget for the town of Lockwood, Colorado for the calendar year beginning on the first day of January 2019 and ending on the last day of December 2019, and appropriating sums of money.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strack.
We're holding a vote right now. What's the point of information?
I was wondering if the budget included an assistant town administrator.
Well, the budget includes a management position which could be multitasked of planning, community development, and management.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Carries. Resolution 2018-24, concerning the mill levies. I think you discussed this already, Steve, but anything you need to add?
You did have an updated resolution that was sent to you, and that update was sent out Friday or Monday, I believe. It was based on the notice we got with Weld County for their final valuations, and it just had a minor change in that valuation number.
Questions or comments? Trustee Jeffrey?
No, thank you.
Trustee Strack?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
Trustee Ott?
Do you think that this will be, we won't have to refund anything like we did the last couple of years?
Well, we're taking the temporary mill levy reduction, which does not result in any refund. So we're taking the reduction up front.
Okay. Thank you.
Else? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 2018-2014, holy cow, 2018-24, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lockbowie setting the 2019 mill levies.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Strack.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Action item D, resolution 2018-25, concerning the appointment of officers. Clerk? I think this is yours. Is this Steve?
This is the standard resolution at every election cycle where town officials are reappointed. It includes the town administrator, town attorney, municipal judge, town clerk, and the town treasurer.
Comments, Trustee Strack?
No.
Jeffrey?
No.
Trustee Doherty?
Nothing.
Will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lockbowie, Colorado, appointing the officers.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott. Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Strack.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is the Mayor Pro Tem appointment process. Ms. Duran?
Just one item. Do you want the sworn in, the oath of officers, or?
It can be done in writing.
Okay, that's fine.
That's okay.
Yep,
Fine with me.
okay.
So appointment process for Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Duran or Mr. Steamy?
So under state law, when you have a vacancy, and you do have one that's been created as a result of your election, you have 90 days to appoint somebody to fill the vacancy. If you fail to take action within that 90 days to appoint, then you must call a special election for purposes of filling the vacancy. So those are really your options. I think that's the first decision you need to make, is whether you intend to appoint somebody or go to an election.
You did the vacancy first. We're doing Mayor Pro Tem first.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry. Yeah, so the code provides that you have this position, Mayor Pro Tem position, which basically fills in and takes on the duties of the mayor whenever the mayor is unable to serve for whatever reason. Your appointment options for that are really whatever it is that the board as a group wants to do. Code doesn't require anything particular. Of course, and to take any action, you should have a majority vote either way. But, I mean, you can take nominations from the floor if that's what you decide to do. I do want to touch on the voting for that. The Mayor Pro Tem, because it's a leadership position within the governing body, is one of those rare exceptions to the rule that you can't use a secret ballot. You can, if you decide to, take nominations for Mayor Pro Tem, and then you can decide to vote that by secret ballot that the clerk can then read it to tell us who got the most votes. And again, that's a board decision whether you want to go by secret ballot or in the open.
Thoughts, Trustee Strack?
I like the idea of the secret ballot, which would work if a couple of people were appointed to that position. Pardon?
Nominated? You said a couple of people were appointed. You mean
If nominated. All right, excuse me.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I feel very comfortable just going through an open process. I don't think a secret ballot is needed.
Hard enough is to make it secret anyhow, so I'm fine with it.
Trustee Doherty?
Good either way.
I think we have a consensus for just doing a roll call of hands. So I will entertain any nominations for the position of Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to make a nomination of Dave Ott, Mayor Pro Tem.
Any others?
I would like to nominate Grant Doherty for Mayor Pro Tem.
There aren't any others. Okay. Since we have a nomination for trustee Doherty and a nomination for trustee Ott, we will hold a hand vote. All in favor of trustee Ott, please raise your hand. 2, all in favor of trustee Doherty, please raise your hand. 3, trustee Doherty is appointed to the position of Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, next up is the vacancy appointment process.
I think I already addressed that.
So, I
As I
will,
said, you've got 90 days to make a decision on an appointment, or otherwise you must go to a special election. The process isn't otherwise really defined under the law. I've seen places where they advertise, take nominations. Pretty much runs the gamut, but you have to do something within 90 days or we'll be in a special election position, which is, of course, relatively expensive, so.
comments, trustee Doherty?
I guess what would we, I think maybe I was the last person that was appointed. What was kind of the process at that point? What have we done? What have we done kind of?
I believe it was trustee Morris that was the last.
I think Morris was elected.
He was elected. You were the last one, yeah.
Recall, I'm gonna ask you then, because
Well, so I don't know if I was here like in the meetings
I can't-
before potentially or anything.
I think that they advertised for your position.
No, we didn't. It was super short notice and we had urgent pressing matters. So we kind of appointed Grant straight from the planning commission.
That's totally allowed if that's the process you want. I think as a group, you need to decide what process you want to utilize.
I guess I don't really have a major opinion one way or another. I mean, I think we had some comments earlier that we did have a fourth that ran, and I can definitely see how that would be appropriate as well, but I can also see opening it up for other people, so I could kind of go either way. I'm gonna hedge on that.
Trustee Att?
I don't have a problem with Gary being nominated for it. I don't think we should spend the money for a special election. You know, if you want to open it up to other people before we make a decision, I can go either way, so it's fine with me.
That's indecisiveness on this board. Trustee
Well,
Stratt?
I'm going to make the motion to approve them, so.
Trustee Stratt?
For me, it's kind of a vote of the people. During the last election, he got quite a few more votes than just the 7 board members. So for me, that's what the people wanted in a roundabout way. So when the time would come, I would make that motion to nominate him for that position.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I think if we had had a lot more candidates running, then we could entertain, like, seeing who was interested or have more conversation about it. But I believe that since Gary Counterman was the only other person running, he's definitely shown that he's interested in being part of this process, and I support the opportunity to give him that chance.
And my thoughts would actually echo what Trustee Jeffrey just said. To me, Mr. Counterman subjected himself to the election process. He was the only additional person to subject themselves to that process, so I think it's appropriate to appoint him. And it sounds like that's kind of the consensus of this board. I could see benefits to the wider process too, but I think if the board thinks it's appropriate to appoint Mr. Counterman, I will entertain a motion to that effect.
Appoint Gary Counterman to the vacant position of town trustee.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Stark.
Yes?
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Motion carries. So I think we will officially swear Mr. Counterman at the next meeting then. Can do it right now. We just don't have the nice fancy little paper. Yeah, let's do it. And you can take your seat. Surprise! Would have been, yeah.
Huh?
It would.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand and follow after me. I state your name. Do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of Colorado.
Either one. Okay, and just like that, we have a full board. So action item G is the appointment of various positions. The first is the Lac Bowie Municipal Sewer Board. If you kind of want to give a short summary of what that's for, Steve.
So on the sewer board, the terms run with the trustees' elected term. And the Lac Bowie has been typically represented by the mayor and then 2 trustees. And the sewer board has 3 members from Lac Bowie and 2 elected officials from the city of Brighton, and then an ex officio member from South Beebe Draw Metro District. And that board typically meets quarterly. We've had a kind of a lack of meetings here recently with some, I think, turnovers in other locations primarily. But they do important work of setting sewer fees and rates, and they review the CIP plan with the sewer plant, and kind of the management agency that we go to for part of that work for the sewer plant. It was an agreement entered into probably 2000, was it 2004? 2009, as a pursuant to a court order, and I think the effective term of that agreement is something like 40 years.
The current members are myself, Mr. Strack, and Trustee Early, who is no longer on the board, right? So, I am willing to continue in my position. Are you, Mr. Strack? I'm willing to continue in my position on
I'd
the
like to
board.
continue my position.
Is there anyone interested in being our new alternate, or
Well, we'd 3, so we need 3 full members.
we need 3
Yeah,
full
three-
members.
3 members plus an alternate.
is there anyone else interested in serving on that board?
Would,
And anyone interested in serving as an alternate? Which means you would almost never have to go.
I'm willing to do that.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like we have a consensus. All in favor of the appointments as suggested, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, so the appointments will be as stated. Next is Dr. Cog. Mr. Stamey.
So the town of Lac Bowie's joined Dr. Cog last year, and we have a representative and an alternate that can attend Dr. Cog meetings as a voting member. And they meet, do they meet twice a month, Larry, now? Once a month, a regular meeting, then they have 1 meeting for a study session. So right now, Dr. Cog is primarily involved in evaluating and distributing some transportation funds that are passed through from the Federal Highway Administration. And right now, they're evaluating about a $34 million distribution through the Adams County Council of Governments. We've also participated in just of the Weld County members that are members of Dr. Cog in what's called a Weld County Forum, because Weld County is not a member of Dr. Cog, but they've hosted meetings of communities in Dr. Cog. Right now, Lac Bowie has an application pending, which we will submit for a sub-regional funding request. It's very competitive, but we're asking for an interchange improvement of about $1.75 million. Separately, we're asking for some trail funding through the Weld County Forum of about around $1 million, I believe, for that project.
And currently, I serve as the member on that board, and Mr. Strock is the alternate. I am going to step away from my position with DRCOG because I am going to be teaching in the fall, which conflicts. I also think that Mr. Strock has done an excellent job attending in my absence over the last several months, so I would nominate him as our new representative to that board, and I am willing to serve as an alternate. If there are any other nominations, I am willing to consider them now. Seeing none, all in favor of Mr. Strock serving as our DRCOG representative?
Point of
and-
information.
Yep.
Does trustee Stark?
I believe he does. He was nodding. Are you willing to serve?
I certainly am.
Okay,
Okay.
I thought we should ask.
Make sure, yeah. Okay, so seeing no other nominations, all in favor of Mr. Strock serving as our DRCOG representative and myself as the alternate, say aye.
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 All opposed? And the ayes have it. Next is the CML Policy Committee, Mr. Stamey.
So the town of Black Bowie is a member of the Colorado Municipal League, and there are 230-some, I think, member organizations of CML. And they represent, they're a spokesman for local governments. And our current member, or current town rep is Trustee Ott. And Dave, do you want to explain kind of what you attend and how often and?
Well, they have quarterly meetings. The next one is going to be this Friday. It's from 9 in the morning till about 1 in the afternoon, discussing different things that are upcoming in the legislation. In February, they have a legislation review where you get out of the Capitol and they present all the pending legislation that would affect local communities and towns. It's a job of the CML to keep us appraised of anything the legislature tries to do that infringes on our local authority, I guess is the best way to put it, which it looks like there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming up with this new legislature that's going in. They're going to try to get a bunch of stuff through to circumvent local control, and we'll do our best to keep it from happening. Right now, I enjoy serving on it, and I'm willing to continue serving on it.
Have any other nominations? There's an alternate too, right? I can't remember.
I think we have had an alternate for that.
It is now.
I don't know if
And I'm retired, I never missed one, so
Yeah.
Dave's attended all of them.
So
The other part of CML is that every summer they offer training for board members, which is very valuable training to go to, and Trustee Ott's about
106 hours. So.
I have Mr. Ott as a nominee. Any other nominations? Anyone willing to serve as the alternate and knowing again that you probably will never have to go? Okay, we have Mr. Counterman nominating as a alternate. Any others? Hearing no other nominations, all in favor of Mr. Ott as our representative to the policy committee and Mr. Counterman as the alternate, say aye.
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 All opposed? And the ayes have it. That fills all of our positions on various boards. Next item on the agenda is the approval of an amendment to extend the performance obligations under the ditch agreement. Mr. Ahn.
All right. In 2016, the town became concerned about some groundwater issues in the Blue Lake subdivision. And particularly had some concern that the West Burlington expansion ditch, which runs on the western boundary of the Blue Lakes subdivision, might have some issues, either that it was leaking or somehow was compromised. And at that time, the town entered into an agreement with LGI Homes, it's the builder out there, for LGI to provide the town with security in the form of a letter of credit, the dollar amount of which was based on town estimates to repair that ditch. And what this agreement says is that they will provide us with that letter of credit, which is a security instrument, and we'll give them a certain amount of time to repair the ditch. Well, that time expires on December 31st of this year. And as of right yet, I think that it's fair to say, and I see Mr. Bush in the audience, that that's still under study. And we've met with them, and we're willing to give them further, from a staff perspective, we're willing to recommend to you that you amend the agreement to give them an additional 6-month period of time to extend their performance deadline from December 31st to June 30th of 2019. And that's what that extension agreement does.
Questions or comments, trustee Strack?
Well, you know, a year ago I mentioned this, and every few months I mentioned it, you know, that it was coming due. So it's been 2 years that they could have been working on it, and now it's looking for, they're asking for another 6 months. You know, I guess I probably don't have any problem with that if a proper solution is determined at that time. What I would like is the if any in this agreement taken out, and that would be my only comment.
And I do want to point out, I probably should have said this, that during that period of extended time for them to perform, we're also requiring them to extend the term on that security. So we still have that money in the form of a letter of credit, so that if we needed to go out there and do it ourselves, we had the money to do it. So I think the town is protected.
In that first number 1.
I don't know if it might be helpful, Mark, for you to explain a little bit about why we're, yeah, I think it might be helpful.
Can you press the button? Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, here we go. Mark Bush, 905 West 124th in Westminster, Colorado. I'm the kind of the project manager, kind of lead developer for the new trustees for the entire Bella Vista project, which actually incorporates the whole north half of the section there. So we started out with some 300 acres out there. What we're really looking at right now is the cost benefit analysis of potentially relocating that ditch. It actually impacts 7 or 8 lots, I can't remember the exact number, over there. We're doing really a cost benefit analysis of, well, let me even step back a little bit. We're gathering information. We've set piezometers in the area to examine a lot of working in partnership with LGI, piezometers in the area to measure the water table to see to the extent that that particular area poses a risk for potential water table issues. We definitely, LGI incurred them further north of exactly where this ditch kind of encroaches into the plat that we have. We're still gathering that information. We're working with Chris Sanchez, the town's water engineer, I guess would be the proper way to describe Chris, and sharing all the information with Chris, et cetera. So what we're weighing is to the extent that the information proves up itself in terms of the water table readings, maybe just dedicating that particular area as open space or build a pocket park on the western edge of filing one of the Bella Vista project. So that's, and frankly, I think we underestimated, as well as LGI underestimated, the process of working with FRICO to get a ditch relocation. It's made us re-examine the issue. I mean, literally the documents are that thick that they send over. I think the town's well collateralized. It's about $300,000, is that right, Maureen? Yeah, I think the town's super well collateralized in terms of even the preliminary cost estimates to realign that ditch. So that's what we're doing, and talking with Steve and Maureen quite a bit about it, and working with Chris Sanchez. We probably have another month to kind of get probably after the holiday, we'll come forward with a presentation to Steve and Maureen, kind of consolidating all the information we've gathered and try to make the right decision.
Clarify your...
Yeah, it's like I said, I'd certainly be for it, for you determining where the water is coming from, which you're trying to do. My only problem was the if any in that first clause.
Yeah, you know, I'm not familiar with the, Maureen's been working directly with LGI relative to that agreement, so I'm not that familiar.
It's just that wording that I'd like taken out of that agreement, so. Number 1, it says, June 2019, to allow additional time to determine which ditch improvements, if any, is what I would like taken out, and then I would just like it to say which ditch improvements are appropriate. It's kind of semantic.
I can't really comment on it, Maureen, yeah.
This agreement's with LGI, so I'm not sure you can even speak to that.
Yeah, I can, I don't know.
That or not. I mean, I
To
think
me,
we're
it
trying to make a
sounds, if any-
scientific determination here based on the data that they provide once they finish their studies. And certainly, when we entered into that agreement in 2016, this data that we had at that time indicated something needed to be done. What I'm hearing is potentially something doesn't need to be done, or changing the ditch isn't going to solve the problem. So I wouldn't want to mandate a ditch change if that's, or ditch improvement, if that's not, in fact, what the data shows is required in order to remediate the water table problem out there. And that's why that language, if any, allows basically all options on the table. Again, recalling that we have collateral, so we're okay.
I think the town's in a position with the relationship with LGI to force either, has the capital set aside. I think Maureen kind of summed it up very well, is what we're working a lot with Chris. Frankly, we haven't hired another advisor. I think Chris is, and BBA is extremely qualified to provide their opinion, but I think Maureen summed it up as we're really trying to figure out where there is potential risks. And when LGI did the development in this far western side of Filing 1, they ran into water table when, you're dropping the sanitary sewer, you go down 12 feet or whatnot. In the area that the ditch comes through, they didn't run into that same situation, but if you go 600 feet to the north, they had to do some dewatering in terms of installing their lower utilities. But in that particular area, they didn't run into it. But we're not so. We need to consolidate our data and make a presentation and actually, kind of sit down with Chris to really determine whether realigning that ditch there is. I think Maureen summed it up very well by saying we're not sure that that's going to solve any of the water table conditions that they've encountered out there. So frankly, from an economic standpoint, us we own those lots that our project owns the lots that the ditch goes through. It's not an economic decision for us. We're just trying to do what's best in terms of making a smart decision. I mean, the difficulty of realigning that ditch, the cost, as I said, the cost benefit of it, it might just be better to dedicate the areas around there as open space, build some pocket parks down there for the residents to enjoy along the western edge of Filing 1. And there's also quite a bit of open space there as a result of the ditch and the Ditch Rider Road, et cetera. It'd be a nice place for people to be able to enjoy and relax too. Well, I think that what we're doing is we're consolidating our water table information we've gathered. I kind of always say let the facts kind of fall where they may, and let the consultants who have more. But I'm willing to say to you, that's my thought. I mean, as the owner of that particular parcel in that area there, and our partners, we're prepared to do that.
Will you give us a presentation on goods and bad, right?
I think we should, yeah. I think we're going to have to come to council if we change the nature of the agreement with LGI. If the council and the town's changing the nature of the agreement with LGI, we'll have to come back for council approval for that. Isn't that correct, Maureen? Yeah. So we're going to be back in front of you probably either way to do that.
Is there a timeline?
Well, I think it's a January timeline, probably a mid-January, kind of late January. Just because I know we're going to run into the holiday and people start disappearing in about 2 weeks, I think.
Well, the only reason I ask is because Larry's comment about this being an issue, for 2.5 years. It seems like that we need to come to some sort of agreement on when we're going to have a presentation or provide you that we can make some decisions on.
Yeah, I think it's probably end of January, just to give a little runway for the process. I think everybody has everybody's attention, and there's some new management associated with LGI that is much more proactive than the previous one too. I think that it's definitely on the top of the. In fact, it's my afternoon tomorrow. I was working on this issue, so yeah, I think that probably end of January is a reasonable expectation.
Else, Trustee Strack?
I'm still the same thing. It says you need additional time to determine which ditch improvements are necessary. And that includes the entire gamut. I still don't think those two words need to be in there. Nothing more than that. So let's not add to it whether You guys are gonna make the scientific decision, not me.
Yeah,
I would
no,
like
I'm not
to, but
either.
I'm staying out of that, so.
That's
I'm just
tired.
saying, it doesn't seem like those two words really need to be in there, but that's kinda elementary, I guess.
Yeah, I think either, I'm not, but either way, I think we
Probably
kind of know where.
grammar instead of water, okay?
Yeah, this is, I think either way, the town is really the control element over what's going to occur there, and we're going to need the board's consensus to move forward if we decide to go, if LGI really decides to go in another direction of relocating that ditch. And from a landowner's perspective, as I said, I'm not economically motivated to see the ditch moved. I think that there's other passageways to the extent that the science and the information that we gather supports a different decision relative to that.
I didn't mean to confuse you, so.
Oh, you're not confusing me.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I would just like to hope that this is resolved in the next 6 months, because LGI is getting ready to start their next phase of building, and there could be other issues that come to our attention in that process. And I think I don't know that I would be in support of extending it later after that 6 months. So I'd like the message from us to be very clear that, in good faith, we're giving you 6 months, but it needs to be wrapped up by then.
Excuse me.
Yeah, by the end of June, it'll be going into 3 years. So I'm okay with this extension, but I'm not okay with another one. Best way to put it.
Trustee Doherty?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. So you said the original agreement was 2016? And then, I think we need to leave the if any. I don't think we should hamstring them into, I guess, forcing a ditch improvement if it doesn't have to be a ditch improvement. Like you said, if it's just locating some parks there and that resolves it, then that's not a ditch improvement, and I don't think we should spend money where it doesn't make sense to spend money. So I think we should leave the if any in there. Let's see. I also agree that I'm generally fine with the extension, although I have a caveat here in a second. But I think it needs to be resolved within the next 6 months, and maybe 6 months. So my next question is, when do they start running water in the ditch?
That's a good question. Typically, they run at kind of end of March. They start running some water down the ditch.
So would it not make it more sense to have this done before March instead of giving you
I think,
until?
I think this is one of the top of my agenda items, and I think it's on the top of LGI's agenda, as well as the town's. I think the 6 month time frame is adequate, and I think the science is gonna. We have a lot of preliminary data. I think that if the 6 months comes at the extent, we're gonna have to make a decision in January, but it'll take 6 months to negotiate. Right. It'll take 6 months to negotiate a ditch relocation agreement with FRICO.
Right, but we've had 2 years.
Correct, but, sorry about that. I didn't know that thing moved. But, yeah, we're gonna run into the ditch running season in 6 months, but I think it's important to keep the momentum going. I wouldn't, suggest shortening that period. I think 6 months is a fair time for get everything resolved, because we may come back to you in end of January or so, and you may ask for additional information, et cetera. I think, if you're suggesting a 3 month time frame, that 90 days just goes so fast. In particular, we're gonna lose, really almost the next month with difficulties in the holiday.
And let me just offer how this plays out. So under this agreement, they have an obligation to study and repair the ditch by December 31st, and they gave us $300,000 in a letter of credit that we can use to repair the ditch if they fail to repair the ditch. So let's just say 6 months from now, I get a little nervous. I think the message is clear from this board that no more dilly-dallying. But, the reality is, at the end of 6 months, if they aren't done, for us to say no more extensions, what that means for us is now we have $300,000 in our hand and we've got to figure out how to fix a ditch, and we'll be negotiating with FRICO. So I'm not sure I just don't know that drawing a bright line now makes sense. I think that delivering the message that they need to be working forward to fix and figure out the answer to this water table solution, mean, it gives me personally great comfort to know that Chris Sanchez is the guy that they're using on that, because Chris has the town's best interests always in mind. And I think as long as they are diligently working towards that, I just want to make sure you have in your head sort of what will happen if you draw that bright line and 6 months from now they haven't performed. All you've got then is a big job on your hand, so.
I had one other thing too. Since we're extending it, I also think we should then hit it by 2 years worth of inflation. I actually think that should happen. I mean, we agreed with something 2 years ago based on a price, and the price has changed. So I think we should, if we're amending this and allowing additional time, then it would also cost us additional money than what we agreed to at the beginning 2 years ago, or nearly 3 years ago. So I would be pretty adamant that we should also make sure that we're getting inflation included in the increased cost that they gave us.
We can go back to LGI and ask them how they feel about replacing the letter of credit with a higher dollar amount. I don't know that we have time for them to do a whole other engineering cost estimate and get this executed before the period for compliance ends, which is December 31st. Do know, though, that we took 115% of the engineer's cost estimate in the letter of credit, not just a pure 100%. So we do have some cushion there.
No, it's not my, I wouldn't know, but I do think the town, based upon what I've understood is, I think the town has substantial collateral right there at the $300,000 mark.
I guess it's neither here. I mean, we agreed to a price 2 years ago, and $300,000 or whatever it was 2 years ago is not worth the same that it is today. So I think if we're extending this, I think we should get an increase based on inflation.
What's your thoughts on the amount of the increase, Grant?
What's that?
What's your thought on the amount of the inflation factor, Grant? Trustee Doherty, what would be your thought?
Well, I would probably defer to an economist on that. I think they have numbers out there on what inflation's been over the last 2 years.
Inflation rate or CPI rate or something like that. I mean, I'm just going to bring the message back to LGI, to tell you the truth, so that's why I'm kind of.
Yeah, we're just going to need to approach LGI with a request that they increase the security on file with the town. And so there's the construction cost index, which maybe is the most appropriate
One that
index.
popped in my head.
Sorry?
That's one that popped in my head also, too.
Versus CPI, which tends to be more labor.
I just think it should be adjusted since it's not worth the same as it was 2 years ago when we made the agreement. That's all that I really have on that.
All right, then I can take this, I mean, if there's a consensus on that, I guess I can take that feedback back and discuss it with LGI, see if they're willing to do that.
I guess, sorry, I said they should be pretty motivated since it expires, and if they don't, their contract,
December 31st, and we do have one more meeting on the 18th, so we have one more fight.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they'd be pretty motivated to approve that on their side, so.
Get Trustee Counterman's comments, and then we'll do a consensus on that. Trustee Counterman?
Is there a possibility that you could change the terminology from extension to a deadline? Is that reasonable, or?
Well, it extends a deadline. It effectively just moves the deadline from December 31st to June 30th, so.
June 30th that's a deadline, no, that's not an extension until then, where they could get another extension then.
They could come back and get, I mean, there's nothing to prohibit them from coming back and asking you for another extension. If what they discover, and all I'm saying is it makes some sense to keep your mind open a little on that, because we don't know from Mr. Sanchez, for instance, what the data is going to show and what the fix is going to be. I mean, if the fix is build the Hoover Dam, we're going to need to give them more time. But if the fix is, put some plastic bags over the ditch, then it's sufficient time. I'm making that up. But my point is, what you're doing is you're extending the deadline for them to perform. So now we have an additional 6 months. I think the message has been pretty clearly delivered that we need to get answers as to what this is and work towards
to
that.
wrap this particular thing up, but I would just add the point that with the agreement with the city, if I understand correctly, is it's a relocation of the ditch. And, so it's a relocation of the area that it encumbers 6 or 7 or 8 lots right in that particular area. Finally been meshed with a water table story, so we're getting the water table information we need to say, does that relocation have any benefit necessarily to the water table. And right now, the information we've gathered at this juncture probably points that it doesn't. It won't change the dynamic out there that LGI has encountered out there. So I think the important thing for us is to coalesce our information right now. And I met with Chris Sanchez yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we chatted about this for a bit. I had a meeting with Steve Jeffers and Chris yesterday, and talked about this a little bit. And I talked with LGI about it this afternoon, and it's on the top of everybody's list. And I think we have the data today, and we got to coalesce it now. So
I guess the more I hear about this, the more I think that maybe we should wait until in January, when you say you're gonna present some alternatives, because I'm not so sure that moving the ditch or whatever is gonna solve the problem either. So I'm not so concerned about what you do as I am when you do it.
yeah, I think the issue of the timeline really is the expiration of the letter.
Yeah, we can't wait till January, because right now something has to be done before December 31st, or else they're in breach of the agreement and we gotta build a ditch improvement.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, I don't know that it may not be necessary. It may not be the betterment of the community to do so. I think that's really the presentation of the information that we're kind of gathering to put together. I mean, I'm hoping, to be hoping that we kind of come to a consensus with Chris and with Steve Jeffers that moving that ditch to fundamentally what the game plan was is to move the ditch and develop those 8 lots into home sites. I mean, that's the genesis of what occurred there. So from an economic standpoint, and as the owner of those lots, I mean, I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that all our information, we come to a consensus working with Chris Sanchez, that we all come to the conclusion, let's just keep it where it is. And I think it's a larger community benefit, frankly, to have a pocket park back there than have 8 homes. And the cost effectiveness of moving the ditch and frankly, the value of the land it's a coin toss. So we're not motivated economically to see LGI have to relocate that ditch to sell them the 8 lots.
Well, and I think from this board's perspective, what would be important is that there was an identified water table problem in 2016, and if not moving the ditch and or not piping the ditches, which is what was contemplated in 2016, is now being thought of as not a necessary solution, then you need to come and explain to us what the water table problems are and whether or not the residents out there can expect,
No, I completely agree with that, Maureen. I think that is but yeah, what I'm suggesting is the area that they really ran into, and Chris has done a lot of hydrology analysis. I don't know if he's probably talked to you offline about it. We've been studying data out there for a long time, particularly in all of the areas of Bella Vista, actually.
I think we're beating around the bush here. My objection is, this will be 3 years and we haven't gotten a decision. All I'm saying is, no more extensions on the 30th of June. Either they have a plan or they don't need to do a plan. I'm not interested in any other extensions or anything else. If they come to us and they have a plan to do it, I don't have a problem with giving them the time to get it done, as long as there's a plan in place. And if they don't need to do anything, that's fine with me too, then the whole deal's null and void. I'm just simply stating, I don't want to go any further than June 30th, because it's already been dragged out for 3 years. So we need to have a decision by June 30th, a go or a no-go. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that. I agree with that, trustee. I agree with that. I want it off my desk, to be candid. I've been dancing for way too long, and I wasn't really privy to the town agreement that was completed in 2017. I was kind of excluded from that conversation, but I don't know, consciously or unconsciously by LGI, so I was never really brought into that discussion. It was kind of a surprise for me.
I would kind of echo Trustee Ott and just say, to me,
I agree.
It isn't necessarily I want the town to take on the project so much as it is we want to know what's going on. So hopefully by our first meeting in February, we'll be hearing from you.
I think that's an appropriate time frame.
So I move to approve the extension of the agreement with a plan or no plan needs to be in place by June 30th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Counterman. Trustee Doherty. Trustee Stark.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes, and the motion carries. You can see a bunch of our students starting to get antsy because I think you're at your time. If you can bring your forms up to the clerk, she'll get them to me and I can sign them while we keep going with the meeting, so bring them up here. Next item is the mosquito management services renewal proposal.
So this is a renewal.
Guys, you gotta be quiet though.
The renewal of our annual mosquito treatment program.
Guys, hey, wait. Guys, you gotta be quiet though, we're still meeting. Okay.
Our original agreement was 2016 through 2018, so that's expired, and we're now entering into another 3-year agreement with the Vector Disease Control Group. The 2018 cost was $15,345. Their proposed first-year cost in 2019 is $15,959. It's about a 4% increase. It's a 3-year agreement, though, that locks in their annual increase to 2%. And they start testing for mosquitoes in April through September, and they treat based on their trap counts. And so we pay them monthly for that 6-month period. And they've been doing this now in the town for, I think even before the last 3-year period, they're about the sole provider of this service in Weld County. Request that we renew their agreement so they can be ready for the 2019 season.
Questions or comments, Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty? Trustee Connerman? Trustee Strack?
Nothing.
Trustee Jeffrey?
Oh, thank you.
And I have nothing, so I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the mosquito management services renewal for the years 2019 through 2021 as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Doherty. Trustee Stark. Trustee Stark.
Said,
No, sorry,
Oh.
Stark, sorry.
yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Counterman.
And the motion carries. Next on the agenda is staff comments, the town administrator report.
Just a couple quick things tonight. I have a new proposed date for the library work session of January 29th. I don't know if you all want to just mark it and let me know, or if you want to look at your calendars right now. That date works for both the director of the High Plains Library and also the director of the Hudson branch. I think it's a Tuesday.
Does that work for everyone? 6:30?
Whatever time works for you all.
Objections?
Okay, so we'll go ahead and schedule it for the 29th. It'll be here. We'll just hold it here. And then I did get asked by Terry, who is the director of the Hudson branch, whether or not you guys wanted the Hudson Library Board to attend the work session. I don't know how you all feel about that. It's up to you. We can just keep it with you all and the 2 library directors, or we can invite their board to attend as well.
No, I personally would like them to be here, especially since one of the things we want to talk about is our representation on that board, so. Anyone else?
Objections?
What sets the districts, because Hudson's under High Plains, right?
Yeah.
And we're,
So it's the RE3J school. It's the RE3J school district that sets the district. Yeah.
we're not able to become a new state, anything like that?
I don't know. I think those are good questions to talk about with the director. They have a generally new director at the High Plains Library, not the Hudson branch, but the library itself. So I think those would be great things to talk about, topic of discussion. So we'll go ahead and schedule it for the 29th. I know that their side is all on board for that, and I'll extend the invitation to the library board as well, the Hudson Library Board. And then the other kind of just cool thing, just to share with you all, that the Hudson branch recently purchased a bookmobile. So we're going to be coordinating with them. They're still kind of getting their plan in place for that and the bookmobile up and running, but we're going to coordinate with them, at least in the interim, bringing that out here to the parking lot in front of the building and letting it have access for residents. So that's kind of cool and neat, something to look for in 2019. Wastewater treatment plant, you all have the updated contingency log attached to that. We ended up spending a little bit more money, but then getting a little bit more money back. So we're even in better shape than we were last time we met and discussed. So we're still at like 180, almost 83,000. So that'll leave a little wiggle room for us. We're planning on hopefully adding a few extra things that we weren't sure that we were going to be able to make happen. So fingers crossed that construction still keeps going as planned, and we'll have plenty of contingency left to kind of make a few additional improvements. Wild County Road 2 water main, I was hoping when I put together my report last week, I was hoping I was going to have like really great update for you all, but we're kind of stalled out again with FRICO. Things were going really well. There was no water in the ditch last week, so we're kind of hustling to try to make some moves, but it kind of stalled out. So stay tuned. We'll get back into it soon, hopefully. And then just one quick thing about the water treatment plant. We had to replace a blending valve and an actuator, and the total cost came to about $8,000. We elected to take that out of we still had contingency left from the initial project this summer. So we're just gonna take that out of the contingency. So we'll still have about 20,000 left in that contingency when all is said and done. The lead time, I think, on those parts was like 8 to 10 weeks at the end of October. So hopefully they'll be, once they get them in, they'll come over and pop over, finish that work, and we'll finally have final completion on the water treatment plant. But it's great that Moltz is working on our wastewater treatment plant because it's easy for them to just head over here when the parts go.
Parts that broke or old parts?
Old, yeah. So, but that's it. Any questions for me?
One of the students can come up and get this pile, and then you guys can go out there and redistribute it. Thank you. But make sure you close the door so we don't get lots of noise. And thank you all for attending. It's really awesome to have a full room, so we appreciate your being here.
You guys can stay if you want.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
For a second. I'm tired.
Sent me a message that the live streaming isn't working.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one update on the sewer escrow that we have. We're still working with Brighton and South Beebe Draw for the escrow release. That's ongoing, and Maureen had a meeting with Brighton's attorney today to add a sentence or two to the request for disbursement to satisfy them on that request. So hopefully we'll get that resolved soon. I did have an update meeting with representatives of Walton Silver Peaks, and they're on schedule to build their north half of County Road 2, and starting this summer, they're talking with the same contractor the town is using for our portion of that, which is, I think, probably good news. And Bowman Engineering, who works for the Farkas property, which is, I think, Brighton East Farms, they have finalized a design for the Spear Canal Bridge crossing. I think that's under final review now. Everybody's probably going to sign off on that pretty soon, and FRICO will sign off at some point. We're trying to get that scheduled so that's all ready to build this year yet, or in 2019. We did get a submittal for 7-Eleven on Lockbuoy Center. We've been working with Marine's office on trying to finalize the subdivision improvement agreements for the commercial portion and for the residential piece. And the final plat's about ready to finalize for that project. And also you have attached to the staff report of concept landscape drawings for the roundabout area and the entrance into town on County Road 2, and extending the landscape median on the first part of the Lockwood Center station area. So this concept has been submitted to CDOT, for at least to get a placeholder in their review. We'll get some feedback from them on this concept as well.
Or concerns, anyone? Okay, anything from the clerk? Election season's done, so you're done. Anything from town attorney?
For me, I want to welcome the new trustees and, my services, but I think we'll address issues of training, and I think it would be good to have a get-together and go through the basics, so.
Public Works? Anything?
We did receive numerous calls about tumbleweeds and so we're working on taking those up and looking for alternatives on the river. I approached the fire department to use a couple of our pilot, one in the wastewater plant and one in the open space area there. And we got the DOT to do that. All of those that it's private property, backhoe, right here, retrieve those things. They are in the right way to retrieve that.
Encouraging people to move their tumbleweeds into the park, yeah. Questions?
If you don't have enough, I have plenty left over at my place.
We also did, thanks a lot. We did post on our website that we have, we offered a free disposal for tumbleweeds if anybody wants to bring them to answer your question. But so, yeah, we do have a large pile of that stuff.
Questions or concerns for anyone on staff? Okay, mayor trustee comments. We'll start with trustee App.
If any of you have noticed on the east side of I-76 there, it looks like they're gonna start building more warehouses there. Trustee Doherty mentioned this a few meetings ago, and he beat me to the punch, but I still think it's a good thing. We need to send a letter of concern to the city of Brighton, CDOT, and Adams County about that frontage road intersection at Weld County Road 2 and the East Frontage Road, because if there's gonna be all that truck traffic there, we either need to get a light there or a right turn only stop sign. Because I drive a semi for the race team occasionally, and when you're looking, if you were sitting on that hill, we have a window in ours down low in the door so you can see through. But if you have a window in that door and you're sitting up on that hill, you can't see anybody coming up over from westbound County Road 2. And likewise, they have a pretty poor line of sight coming up that hill if they're speeding, which they shouldn't be, but if they're doing 55, 60 miles an hour coming to town and a truck turns in front of them, there's gonna be some pretty horrendous, there could be some pretty horrendous accidents at that intersection. So I would somehow, whether we can send a letter of concern to CDOT and the city of Brighton and Adams County about that intersection, because it's not in our bailiwick to do something on it. But I would like to see them either do a light or a right turn only stop sign or something to minimize the danger of that intersection. The other things I have is with the new legislature coming in, there's some things that CML is pretty concerned about. There's probably going to be a bill introduced to eliminate the Department of Revenue's ability to cancel or suspend an individual license if they have an outstanding judgment against them, which will eliminate basically a way to collect fees for fines and everything else for us, which they're also trying to change the bail bond system. They're also trying to force everybody to do an employment family medical leave insurance legislation, which will probably get passed this year, which will be mandatory. The Open Records Act they're trying to amend that for make internal affairs investigation of police officers that involves a number of the public subject to inspection. They don't want to redact it, but you can't let to me, you have to keep their addresses and everything else private, you know, or it becomes a safety issue. The other thing is, it's probably gonna have a supervised injection facility for opioids that they're gonna pass to make it legal to, you know, do that, and I just don't agree with that. And then we're still waiting to see what the Wayfair, the Supreme Court made a judgment on the state of Colorado, or the state of South Dakota versus Wayfair on collecting internet sales tax. So that kind of opened up a big can of worms as far as collection is concerned. So we kind of have to see how that sorts out, but I'm sure that's going to be on the agenda too, and especially since we are considering home rule. And that's all I have.
Ready?
I have a couple things. So we have in the budget for next year, the SCADA upgrades and maintenance. I think I thought we talked a couple of years ago to see if they had kind of a, like an annual maintenance fee. Cause I think what we have budgeted is like $40,000. And I was wondering if there's like a system that they have that if we just, I guess, subscribe to it, that it's a lower price on an annual basis for us, but we're not having to pay out like these $40,000 chunks of bills. If we can do it a little bit more regularly, keep it a little bit more up to date, and pay it lower, I think we'd look at it, maybe we don't have anything, but $40,000 would be nice to see if there was a different option. Is there any way that we could do paperless pay stubs instead of rate? Or at least you don't need to continue using that. I think I know what I'm looking at. What was going on County Route 2 today? Right out here, by or something. There's a big hole.
Know about that is utility relocate.
That's the gas line being relocated a month ago. Like, exact, Q3 is the subcontractor.
Yeah.
That old box, metal box, that actually has a pressure regulator within it. So they abandoned that regulator, they're moving that line over.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what-
And then we had the mosquito, in our board packet, and I included confidential references. I guess I was just curious about including that as kind of these confidential. So I was curious on them, doing theirs, something like that. I was curious on the fix on the drain on the road. So I know that it looked like it had sunk, so I'm curious on if we did anything to kind of re-compact down deeper to make sure that that didn't sink again. Because it looked like it was just, like I said, it looked like it had sunk, it wasn't just concrete cracking, concrete cracks, and it was pretty substantial.
Over the Hyper drain there?
Yeah.
They just did. So I haven't paid the bill on that actually, and that's coming out next spring. There were some other issues with that.
It looked like they did it quickly. A
Not
little
only
too
that,
quickly.
they didn't cure afterwards, like, I missed that.
Yeah.
So I paid, portion of, their invoice that they did some other work for me in town for that. Unfortunately, it won't come out. Hopefully do it next week.
Okay. Yeah, it looked like it was a little hastily done, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know that we won't do that. I'd like to see if we can, move forward getting the safe route meeting set up with Iron and stuff.
So I gave you the week of dates there, if you, on my report. Yes, and I forgot to mention that. Did, see if they're available. They're available December 10, the week of the 10th through the 14th. So if you want to give me a couple days and times that work for you.
December 10th and 14th?
Yes.
Well, so it looks like we have a thing on Tuesday for the town, right? Am I right?
Oh, we did. It got canceled, yeah.
Oh, it's fine, yeah.
I took it off.
Okay, cool. Well, then, if that's the case, then this is really only.
Would you want to do it, what time? 6:30. At 6:30? Full board or just you two? Okay, at 6:30? So on the 11th?
Just so our new members are in the loop on this, Safe Built does our building code stuff, and they were giving us recommendations on updates, and it got really detailed in our meeting. So we decided to step back from that and let Mr. Strock and Trustee Doherty meet with them and come up with a kind of condensed down version for the whole board, since both of them have experience in the building community, and can probably digest it a lot better than most of us.
And then, I don't remember how this was ever resolved. We talked about sidewalks before and how most towns require that citizens fix their sidewalks rather than the municipality. Is that, did we change that? Is that the case here in town? Because I think we fixed a lot of sidewalks. And I do think that we should have a caveat that if it's around like a drain, that should not be on the person, the citizen to do that.
To my knowledge, the Silver Peaks and, Blue Lakes and those sidewalks are owned by, maintained by HOA. At least that's my understanding. The existing, areas of Berkshire and Old Town, those are town-maintained sidewalks. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my understanding.
I think we should look into that. I think more, I mean, I don't know many towns that don't require the citizens to upgrade, or not upgrade, fix those if they have issues with them. They get busted up because they drove over with the semi. Okay. Like I said, we should make sure there's a caveat on there if there's something that's like major infrastructure for the town, like around drainage. So that should, I don't think we want them to go get a concrete contractor to fix that for us. And then, so we have a lot of construction going on in town, and I think we should somehow relate to a lot of our contractors that their semis and other truck traffic still need to obey traffic laws and laws not to impede traffic. I think there's regulations on when they need to do signage, and they need to have a flagger out there if people are turning. But I've seen way too often from a lot of the development, including development of Brighton, so I think we should reach out to them, where semis just pull out in front of traffic on County Road 2 and others, and just expect them to stop. I think that's not how traffic goes. That's not, I shouldn't pull out in front of somebody and just hope that they're gonna slow down for me. So I understand that they have things to do and to places to get, but the traffic laws are not being bent for them because they're working on construction in the town. They need to follow those regulations, and I think we should probably even make sure that we're patrolling those areas, because that's exceedingly dangerous for people that are driving on the road to have a semi pull out in front of them and they have to slam on their brakes, because obviously the truck's gonna win and they can, so I think we should do something, reach out to our contractors in town and remind them that they need to be flagging if they have a lot of traffic, and their semis shouldn't just be basically doing whatever they want, pulling out from traffic. That's all that I have.
Trustee Counterman?
Right now, I'm just on overload, so I'll pass.
Trustee Strack?
I guess, first of all, I'd like to thank the Knights of Columbus again. This year they passed out another 50 Thanksgiving meals to school children, families, and elderly people, and made a brighter holiday for at least 50 families in this town. And every year the need grows greater and greater, and the Knights of Columbus actually need a letter of support from the town so that they could continue their services. Just made a letter saying that we appreciate what you do for our citizens. I'm kind of concerned about our master water plan. When we did that and we figured our build out, did we consider what's going on with Brighton? in our sewer plant. I think they're gonna be straining our sewer plant. I mean, all the dirt that you see that's moving around is basically just being put on the other side of 2 to make sure that they're high enough to use our sewer plant. Mr. Lemke is digging out that reservoir. Believe it or not, what looks like a creek on the other side of 76 is gonna be 1/4 the size of Bar Lake someday. All that sand is coming out of there, and it basically is going to assure that the Commerce Center where the trucks are and all the building that's on the other side of 2 can use our sewer plant. So I'm kind of wondering if our build-out specs for our sewer plant considered Brighton's growth.
I'd have to go back and look at that, Larry. I can't speak to that tonight, but.
And that basically is it, so, thank you. The food bank, needs volunteers. Once again, there are 13 people there to help, 100, I guess there were 98 families or people that came to the food bank this month. In December, I believe it's gonna be on Friday the 21st. So they could have a little extra for Christmas, so, that's all. Thank you.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I'm just really pleased to be here and looking forward to working with all of you, and I thank our neighbors for the opportunity.
And I have a couple things. First, I also wanted to thank the voters for giving me the opportunity to serve as mayor. Mostly, I wanted to thank them for the incredible turnout we had in our municipal election. It still wasn't as high as I had hoped, but we had almost 2,000 voters in our municipal election, which has to be one of our highest turnouts in recent years. So that was awesome. Wanted to thank Mr. Strock for the well-fought campaign. I wanted to thank him for taking on Dr. Cog on behalf of the town. I had a couple citizen questions about the new trash day, why it's changing and why they need to have their trash bins out by 6 a.m.
They're changing their day because they've changed all the routes in their other municipalities, so not just ours, they're all changing. But that's all I know about that. I talked to Ellie from there, and then the 6 a.m., I'm not sure. I can ask why, because maybe it's just because people are waiting. I don't know. I'll find out.
The big concern I saw on that was our noise ordinance says you can't have any truck traffic before 7 a.m., so people were concerned that meant there's gonna be garbage trucks at 6 a.m. So as long as they're still saying we're not gonna be here till 7, I don't think anyone's really worried.
I'll confirm and make sure, but I'm sure they know not to be here before 7, so. But I will check on that.
To start ticketing them. Okay, a couple things Maureen mentioned with the calendar. First, I put together a regular board meeting schedule for the next 2 years, which is the term of this board. Has all of our meetings laid out for those 2 years. A couple of things to note. We're gonna have a special meeting / training on January 8th. Well, probably just a training now because we don't need a special meeting since Mr. Counterman has taken his position on the board. So we will have a training on January 8th at 6:30. That's going to be especially for the new board members, but everyone is invited to attend and encouraged to attend. Maureen and other members of staff will be talking about things you need to know to serve on the board effectively, including how to handle quasi-judicial matters and things of that effect. So make sure you get that calendared. The board retreat is currently scheduled for January 12th at 8:30 a.m. That's a Saturday. So if everyone could put that on their calendars. We don't typically have Saturday meetings. This is our kind of one exception that each year we have this retreat where we kind of boil down ideas. One of the things as the new mayor I would encourage everyone to do before that meeting is sit down with a notebook and jot down some of your ideas. What I would like to do at that meeting is after we hear from staff, have about 45 minutes to an hour with just the board members where we can kind of brainstorm what we want to see accomplished this year and next year during the term of this board. Is there any other calendar things I needed to mention, Steve?
Not that I have at the moment.
Okay, and then Sam already mentioned the social got canceled. Are we going to reschedule that then? Okay. we can talk about it at the retreat. I think that is it. Oh, no, one more thing I had. I had mentioned several meetings ago that I sat down with one of the members of the Brighton Rec Center staff about our participation in some of the rec center's activities. And they indicated they're very, very willing to work with us and to let us advertise some of their activities through our newsletter and our website if we choose to participate. But a caveat to that was they wanted to see some financing from us to help offset some of the costs of those activities if we're going to encourage our residents to attend. The ballpark number they had given, I think, was around $5,000, which would be almost a third of our activity budget. So if everyone could kind of think about that as we come up to the board retreat, and we can kind of decide at the board retreat if that's appropriate or not appropriate, or how we want to use those activity funds, that would be great. And I think that's all I had for tonight. Does anyone have, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I had one item that I forgot to mention or ask for the board. If the board was okay to do the holiday bonus, which we've done for the staff the last few years. Just want to confirm if the board's okay with doing that this year.
Actions? I'm not seeing any, so yeah. Okay, and that's all I had. If anyone has anything else?
I have a question about the retreat, because my daughter has a basketball game that day. What's the time? Like, I know you said start 9, it says 8:30 here.
8:30,
What-
yep.
Till when?
Usually around noon. Shouldn't go much longer than that, I wouldn't think. We try and get out of here. But there will be breakfast served, and we usually try and finish around lunchtime. Anything else? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned at 8:10 PM.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marty. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.